Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is August 7th, 2010, and I'm Darko. Thank you for joining me in this video series. I'm just going to blitz through a bunch of news articles and get you up to speed on what's going on in the world. This one is from ABC News, and this is titled Unique Exercise to Test U.S.-Russia Hijack Response. This has gotten a decent amount of publicity by the mainstream media. It says that the U.S. and Russia, which have more bluster than cooperation in their often contentious history, will have their jet fighters take turns pursuing a civilian plane across the Pacific next week in a first-of-its-kind exercise to test the response to a potential international hijacking. That's right, folks, as Russia's country is choking on fumes and gaseous fumes and smoke and fire, and they got barrels of toxic substances, throughout 3,000 of them, 5,000 barrels that floated from China to Russia, and they've been going on their waterways for a couple days now. And the U.S. economy is not recovering the way they expected. Jobs, unemployment rate is still high, not recovering, and yet we still are spending money on stuff like this. That's the kind of things that, when we talk about false flag terrorism, this is it. These are usually the things that occur before a false flag terrorism attack. But this is also just a bunch of crap, right? Because it is a war on terror, liberty, sovereignty. It's war on the individual, and it's about collectivism. And so this has nothing really to do with Middle Eastern people or Islam or Christianity versus Islam or any of that. It has to do with these ruling families not liking individual sovereignty and declaring literally a global war on terror, a war on the individual. So, and you can be rest assured that this isn't just a U.S. thing or a U.K. thing. It's a Russian thing, a Chinese thing. Any superpower that wants to keep their population enslaved will go along with this whole war on terror. Wink, wink. Okay, moving on along here. It says Senate passed $600 million border security bill with bipartisan support. This is from August 6, 2010. It says the Senate passed a $600 million border security bill last night by voice vote, just before leaving for August recess. The bill, introduced Thursday afternoon by Senators Chuck Schumer and Claire McCaskill, funds 1,500 new enforcement agents and additional unmanned drones along the border. Those drones. And adding the drones says, quote, a lot of people now think of drones in the way that they've been used in Pakistan, taking out al-Qaeda or killing civilians. But primary to the drones is their ability to get real-time surveillance. Yeah, that's right, folks. And that's what I don't like about this whole border thing that's going on right now. All of a sudden, our government cares. They don't care about the border, dude. And this, in the end, that whole bill ended up being about the national ID, the biometric ID, the workers' ID for American citizens, not really about illegal immigrants or stopping illegal immigration. Just like these drones. These drones, what they want to do is be able to fly drones over U.S. soil and spy on Americans and surveil and all that. Not so much for the borders, but they'll introduce them here at the borders and say that's what they're for, and eventually they'll creep in 100 miles, 200 miles, 500 miles from the border, and that's just how they work. Incremental. And so, 1,200 National Guard troops being deployed to border will not be used to stop and detain illegal aliens. So after all that, they won't even be doing direct law enforcement. They can't even arrest anybody. They can't fire anybody. Just defend themselves. And so my biggest worry with this whole thing is that, like with the ID, people people need to be careful. People that are associated with the Tea Party or considered conservatives or constitutionalists, you need to be careful because what they're kind of playing that whole movement against itself, and in the end, you're going to end up it's going to end up being very fascist. In other words, being able to go around and just start asking people for their IDs, whether they're citizens. It sounds all nice when, it's just brown, Mexican people and stuff like that, and it's not really going to affect you. Um, and you can say, well, if you're a citizen, you have nothing to worry about. It's like then you start getting into those waters, and I think that we all need to be careful about that. So I think it's good that it didn't go through, but it's bad that they got the workers' ID out of it. And after the U.S. government requested that WikiLeaks return all of the leaks and the documents. AP interview WikiLeaks to publish new documents. WikiLeaks to publish new secret files from governments around the world. This is from August 7, 2010. The online whistleblower WikiLeaks said it will continue to publish more secret files from government around the world despite U.S. demands to cancel plans to release classified military documents. It says, I can assure you we will keep up publishing documents. That's what we do, said WikiLeaks spokesman. This article is from the Australian News, and it says, it's okay to tell police officers to F off. It says, and this is from August 6, 2010, the Queensland magistrate has ruled that it is acceptable for people to tell police officers to F off. And get this, it says, Magistrate Peter Smid yesterday threw out the court case against Moodingborough man Barden Catiera, 28, who swore at a female officer outside the Consortium nightclub on December 20th last year at 2:40 a.m., the Townsville Bulletin reports. Constable Belinda Young gave evidence that Mr. Catiera used swear words twice towards her after a group of officers patrolling Finders Street East poured out his girlfriend's drink. The quote, the defendant said, F off, and started walking away, and I asked, what did you say? She said. And quote, he said, F off again, and then said, I don't like the police. You think you're all heroes. And quote, I said, I told him it was an offense to swear at an officer and gave him two choices, a fine or be arrested. And see, I'm glad that that it ended up like this, because, it's just, that's how they feel, oh, you don't swear at police, and like now you can't video record. You can't, record police officers. And if you can, in whatever state or location you're at, they don't like it. It's like, well, I don't like the fact that the police get to drive around now everywhere here in the Midwest, particularly in my state, with unmarked cars. It's pretty unsettling knowing that there's a bunch of unmarked cars running around, driving, pulling people over. And God only knows who they are. Are they feds? Who are they? Who are these people driving around in unmarked cars, blacked out windows, 50,000 Dodge Chargers, totally souped up, while our economy and all that is just falling apart. This is what gets me. They spend all this money like, border security. It's not going to go towards border security. These small little towns and cities with $50,000 cars, and they'll have like 4 of them. Now, I'll tell you what it is. They're getting federal funding, and that comes with strings attached, but they don't care. The police in this country, the Fraternal Order of Police, they swear allegiance to themselves and then to you. So just remember that. I'm not saying that all police officers are bad people. They're just being used. They're being used. This next article from Press TV, BP plans more drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. BP has announced plans to drill once again in the same reservoir in the Gulf of Mexico, although it is still struggling to seal the catastrophic leak of the Deepwater Horizon well completely. Quote, clearly there's a lot of oil and gas there, and we'll have to think about what to do with that at some point, BP Chief Operating Officer said. And of course they do this. Why? Because environmentalists. It's cheaper to go way the hell out there. So it's environmentalists using the government that causes companies like this to go way the hell out in the middle of the ocean. Or is it just because there's no oil closer to land? No, I think the U.S. is sitting on one of the largest oil reserves in the world. This article from truthout.org says Gulf residents likely to face decades of psychological impact from BP's oil disaster. It says while the devastating ecological impacts of BP's oil disaster in the Gulf of Mexico are obvious, well, they're obvious to some, but most mainstream media are saying that there's no problem. No oil, the less visible but long-lasting psychological, community, and personal impacts could be worse, according to social scientists, psychologists, and says people are becoming more and more hopeless and feeling helpless. Says Dr. Podesta says there is already more post-traumatic stress disorder, more problems with domestic violence, suicide, alcohol, and drugs.